Welcome to Interface here on SABC2. My name is Thembi Samachele. Well, South Africans from all walks of life have sharply criticized members of parliament following a series of chaotic scenes during parliamentary sittings. In the latest incident, riot police were called in to remove an MP, and what followed were clashes between the ANC and opposition parties, with some MPs claiming they were assaulted. The Speaker of Parliament, the Honourable Baleka Mbete, sits at the heart of these discussions, and she is our guest this evening to talk to us a little bit more about what's happening in the National Assembly. Remember that if you would like to take part in this discussion, you can always do so by finding us on Facebook. It's Interface on SABC2, or on Twitter at Thembi Samachele or at Interface on SABC. Thank you very much for your time, Mama, and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
So let's get straight into it. To what do you attribute the chaos that we've seen in the National Assembly?
I attribute it to an unfortunate agenda that is determined to interrupt everything that tries to be orderly, that tries to be, respectful of the rules and protocols of Parliament, as well known around the world, where we go to Parliament, indeed, because we differ. Because, we come as different political parties, members from political parties that differ, that actually already in the election campaign show that they have different views on various matters. But when you get to Parliament, you resolve that you will respect one another, you will respect and commit to protocols of Parliament, the rules, and the conventions.
I hear that, Mama, but also Parliament is a place where answers for the nation are given. And opposition parties are saying, we want answers from the President, and the Speaker is not giving us a fair chance to get those answers.
That is not accurate. And even when you are not satisfied with whatever you believe is not satisfactory to you, there are forums, there are structures, there are ways of doing things. There are agreed places where throughout the time, through the program, we meet. There are whips who come from different political parties and they talk about things. So it's not a correct reflection to say they are not given a chance. It's not true.
What is your response then to the barrage of criticism that's come your way, where they are saying you are acting as the President's henchman, you decide what he needs to answer to and not, and you are protecting him because of your position, not only as the Speaker of Parliament, but also as the Chairperson of the ANC?
It is not true. I very calmly dismiss those claims, because it's not the first time I am the Speaker as well as National Chairperson of the ANC. And I'm not the first politician who is holding a responsibility in the political party as well as in government or Parliament. Helen Zille is the same as myself. Tera Likota was once Chairperson of the ANC as well as Chairperson in the National Council of Provinces. So it's just politics. But people must actually come to terms with the wrong they do themselves, because there cannot be order in Parliament if members of Parliament are not orderly, if in their political party caucuses they decide that they are going to come into the House and be disruptive. Order is by people, is by human beings, it's by honorable members who must actually commit and then actually implement what it is that we have agreed as a collective in Parliament.
Madam Speaker, do you at any point reflect on the complaints of the opposition, where they say the order that you're talking about, you are giving it for them, but you are allowing your own party to air their own views and to be as disruptive as they want in the same House?
When members break rules in the House, whether they are ANC members or they are opposition party members, we rule on them. We give rulings, we punish them the same way, we apply the rules the same way across political parties. And you've seen different presiding officers also criticizing members of the ruling party. So it's not true that the members of the ruling party are given more of an opportunity than other members of Parliament. It's not true.
Will the President come and answer to the opposition parties and also to the nation?
there is a process where that issue was at the center of the discussion between leaders of opposition parties and the office of the, in fact, the leader of government business, who's also the deputy president in South Africa as well as in the ANC. And that discussion, in fact, is very cordial, and political party leaders actually told me how well everything went, where that issue is part of that agenda.
But then a couple of days later, we saw that crumbling because they had agreed that there would be no heckling and that everybody was going to be respectful. And then when we saw them sitting again, we saw exactly the same kind of sin.
Actually, not only was it about heckling, it was about a particular matter that was on the order paper, which the leader of government business had raised with the leader of the largest, opposition party, the Honorable Musi Maimane, that issue is not in the spirit of what they had engaged on with the leader of government business. And he agreed that issue was going to come off. That is the motion against the president. The next thing, by the end of that day, it became clear that they'd gone back on that issue, and therefore it had actually just took the whole thing off the table, which was very sad, even in the opposition benches. So I'm saying at the bottom of everything is the will to be committed to issues that we agree on, that we conduct ourselves in that spirit. It is not true also that the president refuses to come to the House. President was at the House.
So why did he not answer the questions then?
He was answering questions. In fact, even after he had answered supplementary questions, I still asked the president that, please can you answer, because there has been a supplementary question that feels that you have not satisfactorily answered the particular question. And the next thing, he was disrupted. And now the screams are as though the president refuses to come to parliament. It's not the president who refused to come to parliament, it's honorable members who prevented him from answering questions.
When you listen to the opposition parties, they're talking about you in particular. There seems to be a concerted effort to zoom in on your role in this whole debacle. What do you make of that? Do you feel attacked by them?
No, I just know it's politics. It is them trying to undermine the outcome of the elections. The fact that someone is occupying an office whom they don't like for whatever reason makes them feel that the best way to deal with that situation is to destroy, to try and attack the person of the president, even the person of the deputy president. And I then also am in the line of fire. It's part of the terrain, and I just have to keep my cool and do my job.
All right, we will get back to how you will do that exactly. But we have to take a short break now, and when we come back, we'll talk more about what's happening in Parliament, and we do take your thoughts on Facebook and also on Twitter. Stay with us. Welcome back. We're talking about what's been happening in the National Assembly as we've all been watching the stuff unfolding in Parliament. And we are talking to the Speaker of Parliament, the Honourable Baleka Mbete, and also taking your thoughts on Facebook and also on Twitter. And just taking some of those thoughts very quickly, Madam Speaker, Jamal Mabaso says, it's truly sad what has happened to the reputation of South Africa's Parliament. It's turned into a circus and it's time for the politicians to debate as adults. Christine Julia says, Baleka Mbete must resign as a Speaker of Parliament. She's not objective and she has bent the rules so much to suit the ANC. Abongile Spondo says, please ask her when she will resign. And Trisha Kellan says, I would say the EFF's approach to questions in Parliament is lavish and but is also acceptable. The manner in which it's being handled, however, is a problem. It's like a street fight or a circus. So there are very mixed thoughts coming through on Facebook. But the question that seems to be a pertinent one coming your way is, do you think that you should resign as a result of how you've handled things in Parliament?
No, because there's nothing wrong with the way I have handled things in Parliament or in the House. Whatever I did was based on the rules and the role of a presiding officer. Anybody who claims that there was any wrong from the side of the chair must produce the proof, must indicate what rule was broken from the chair, and therefore people must speak and be part of the debate on an informed basis rather than just keep throwing accusations on the basis of actually not understanding what's going on and what it is we're supposed to be doing as parliamentarians and in the manner that we engage one another.
So you're saying it's not true then, the reports that we've heard, that at one point you said that you lost control of the House.
I never said that. I said on the 21st of August, there came a point when I did lose my temper. I said that. And what I was talking to journalists and I was saying to them, however, that does not mean I created the problems of that day. It is the honorable members who were banging tables and screaming at the president. Those are the people that created chaos. And I tried to stop them in the ordinary manner that you would talk to people. And therefore, when they refused to be orderly, to be respectful, and to work in the manner that we normally work in a house, in a debate, I said to them, then they had to leave the house. Are you then saying we must allow that kind of behavior every day in the house?
I think, Madam Speaker, part of the criticism is that the way you've handled it has been somewhat emotional. And, you know, at some point you had told an MP in response, you said, you wish. Do you have any regret as to how you have handled the situation?
What I said, I was responding actually to the DA. They were saying I should leave Parliament. It doesn't happen that way. You don't go and not win the elections. And when you come to the House, the party that has had the biggest number of votes, and we're not saying any party must be arrogant about how they've fared in the elections, but to then come and think that you will determine who is chairing is just not being realistic.
Even if the parties have lost faith in you as a speaker?
Because they would like me to do what they wish. And that's why I was saying you wish.
No regrets about that?
No regrets about that.
Are there any parts of the way that you've handled? I mean, we were told that you called in the riot police. Did you?
To start with, I never called police. The law allows that should a need arise in the House, there are certain steps that would unfold, and those steps unfolded.
So
and in fact, I saw the police in the House as I entered from my office.
Who would have issued the order to call the police?
The people that the law spells out are actually able to do that, have the authority to do that, because we had held ourselves back from ever calling the police to come into the House. But we can't have limitless, openness about what can be done or cannot be done or should not be done in the House. And if you want the Speaker to leave because we're not allowing you, by the way, it is members of the DA that assaulted a policeman. If you were to look at the footage that we have, you will see very clearly who climbed benches and actually launched into a policeman and made him leave the House in tatters, members of the DA.
Madam Speaker, I'm interested to find out, when you look back at this period and all the chaos that's happened, how much of Parliament's work has actually not been done as a result of all of this fighting between the parties? How much of the work that you should have done has not actually been passed through the House?
A lot of work has happened in committees, has happened in terms of oversight work in the communities out there, but a lot of time of the House, of the business that the House should have been doing in terms of focusing on particular policy debates, was wasted in this kind of campaign of members who have come to make a point of showing that they will undermine at all costs.
What is your response to those who say You might have the majority as the African National Congress in Parliament, but you are losing the PR fight and the PR war because of the way that you've been handling these issues.
The thing is, you have a specific attack and accusation that people have handled. What is this way that was supposed to handle the situation? When we have people who have come to Parliament with a specific intention of being disruptive and outrageous and chaotic, as you are describing, what is it that Parliament is expected to do with those people? Because the only thing that we know is that we should remove that outrageousness. We should get on with the business of the House. And that's what we will always do within the law, within the rules in Parliament.
Well, that's what the Speaker is saying. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are on what she's saying and what's happening in Parliament. To give us your thoughts on Facebook and also on Twitter. We'll be back right after the short break. Do stay with us. Welcome back. We are wrapping up discussions here in the studio with the Speaker of the National Assembly, Baleka Mbete, and we are just wanting to find out where to now when it comes to Parliament. One of the criticisms that has come across is that, Mama, the response of the ANC to the newcomers, the EFF, and to the seeming cohesion amongst the opposition has been to attack and to use your majority in the House. And that is a sign of a party under threat. What is your response to that?
No. Well, maybe you should ask the chief whip of the majority party in Parliament, because our roles are not quite the same.
I'm asking you in your capacity now as the chairperson of the ANC as well.
I don't think the ANC is under threat. We got quite a big majority in the elections, and we're very grateful for that to the electorate, and we went to Parliament with a program that we would like to implement and areas around which we would like to focus, rather than be sitting in the House and fighting out with the EFF and the DA. It's actually not true that the opposition parties are all ganging up against the ANC and the ANC is feeling threatened. Not at all. If anything, you've had an interesting debate from opposition benches regretting the fact that opposition politics seems to be so obsessed with certain specific goals and this thing about Jacob Zuma. It seems like we can't think of anything else. We can't look at the priority areas of South Africa. It's just this thing of Jacob Zuma and distorting fact, actually, in the public domain about how many times the president has come to Parliament.
What happens now in the standoff? Because what we've seen is an opposition that is hell-bent on getting specific answers from the president, and we've seen an ANC that seemingly is at odds with what the opposition is asking for. Where to now?
Where to now is that most of the opposition parties would like a different approach and a different energy and way of engaging in the House. They feel that they've never come across this kind of experience, and they really would like to get back to a normal kind of relating to one another as MPs. Because remember, MPs are not enemies just because they come from different political parties. They get on quite well. In fact, they form friendships. They work together in committees. They travel together, whether to the communities or to trips abroad, to attend conferences together, and they do develop very close relationships. And this thing that they've been seeing in the past 5 months since the EFF came is totally very foreign to the relationships of the MPs. I believe that they'll be meeting the leader of government business in the next day or two, and then hopefully we will move on in a much better way.
Does this EFF pose a significant threat for the African National Congress in your view?
I don't think so. I mean, they are a very small opposition party in Parliament. Many of them used to be members of the ANC and ended up having to leave the ranks of the ANC because of what had happened, which, of course, is a matter of record. So I don't think the EFF is a threat to the ANC.
One of the other questions I'd like to ask you is that we've been hearing that you've thrown your hat into the ring for the running of the presidency of the African National Congress.
That discussion is not on the table.
Would you avail yourself for it?
The ANC is very busy with the issues of our people on the ground and were really not interested in a succession debate.
Would you avail yourself if you were called upon to do so?
I'm saying that issue is not an issue under discussion, and I will really not be tempted to even think about commenting or responding to what you are raising.
Okay, we will watch the space though, because we have heard that we are likely to even get a female president, so we will watch and see how that one pans out. In terms of restoring the dignity of Parliament, now that we have had this truce that was brokered by the Deputy President fall apart a couple of days later, how do you then rebuild the dignity of Parliament?
I think let's look out for the meeting to follow up on the kind of spirit which was very positive, which was very constructive of the first meeting of the leader of government business. Beyond that, the program of Parliament, of course, will have to be formally closed at a sitting this coming week, and then hopefully after the festive season, everybody is going to come back refreshed and starting on a different footing.
Looking at the response of South Africans to what's happened in Parliament, a lot of them have now made a point. It's appointment by viewing now when it comes to Parliament, and it's for all the wrong reasons. What do you make of that?
I think it's a very sad thing. I mean, for a country to watch for a whole 5-month period a Parliament being trashed, literally, and people actually saying so publicly, that we want to make sure that we don't respect everything here in this Parliament. What do you do with that kind of attitude? And I think South Africans must themselves ask the question. It's very easy to point a finger at one person, but you must ask yourself, what's wrong with the collective of people sitting on those benches? Because there's no way there's going to be order in Parliament if those members sitting in each caucus around the benches in the House are not prepared to be part of that order.
Should the ANC then take any responsibility for their role in what has happened there?
For the things that ANC members did wrong, the ANC, in fact, made it very clear to the caucus that not in the name of the ANC. Nobody must swear at another person. Nobody must break rules in the name of the ANC. No matter how much you are reacting to another person across the benches, let them go ahead and do that, but not the ANC members. So the party has given its instructions to its members in Parliament.
We've got to wrap this up, Mama, but do you have anything that you take responsibility for?
I take responsibility for applying the rules.
On that very note, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much to the Honourable Speaker of the National Assembly, the Honourable Baleka Mbete. Thank you so much for making the time to join us here on Interface. To join us again next week at the same time, and as usual, let's keep the conversation going on our social media pages. Good night.